Rick and Morty is the wildly popular animated series on Adult Swim, so it's no surprise it's getting its very own anime. And here to tell us all about Rick and Morty, the anime, creator and director Takashi Sano, producer Takenari Maeda, executive producers Chou, who will be translating for Takashi, and the senior vice president of action and anime at Adult Swim, the big daddy himself, Jason Demarco. Woo! Thank you all so much for joining us. Now, Takashi, I have to start with you. How do you go about adapting a series like Rick and Morty into an anime while maintaining the show's original charm and popularity?
本家のリック&モーティっていうのは非常に面白くて、そのエッセンスをこうなんていうかな、一回分解して、いいところだけを寄せ集めて作り直して、今まで私がやってきた日本のアニメーションの作り方で、もう一回再構築するっていうのかな、そういう作り方ですね。
So for him, I mean, he's a big fan of the flagship original franchise as well, and so what he loved about it, and this wonderful template that framework that he's been given, for him the process was to deconstruct it and to refit it, and it's kind of like a puzzle that he had to put together, and so that's the approach that he took while making his own version of Rick and Morty.
And Jason, it seems like you all have been kicking this idea around for a while with all the shorts that we've seen. So what was it that made you all finally just kind of like pull the trigger and greenlight the series?
Well, it was a slow progression. Obviously at Adult Swim we like to have animators and people interpret our shows for little bumps and IDs and music videos and fun things. And in the process of doing that with Rick and Morty, we landed on the idea of we should do some anime versions, And honestly, the way they were received was so much more than we expected. In terms of the audience response to those was so much more excited and than we even thought about it. Especially, Sano's first one that he did, Rick and Morty versus Genocider, 15 million views on YouTube within like its first week. We were blown away. We just didn't, we thought they were fun little experiments. So in that success of seeing him do that, and then his second short, Rick Meets Summer, Rick Meets God, Summer Meets Evil, we thought, he really has a really great handle on it in a particular POV, and it might be really interesting to explore him doing a whole series. And so, the bigger question was, did Sano have the time and availability and the interest in not just doing a one-off short, but taking on like a series? So that's kind of how we got there.
Awesome. I'm glad y'all finally got there because I remember seeing the first short and it just honestly, it blew my mind. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't know what you want until you see it. And I was like, oh, this is dope. I hopefully let you all explore this even more. So I kind of want to talk about like the tone of the series. Takenari, I want to ask you, but everyone feel free to chime in. Like, how would you describe the tone of this series in relation to the original animated show?
Well, the tone, I think, of the show, would be Sano-san would be able to describe in more detail because he basically wrote and directed and character design, key animation. So he did all the work of the production, many of them or much of them himself. So I'll just translate.
Absolutely, yes, please.
この作品のトーンというかが、元のシリーズとの違いっていうのはどういうところになりますかね。
元のシリーズ、アメリカのシリーズよりも、なんだろう、感情の描写、情感の部分、そっちを少し強めにして喜怒哀楽っていうのかなアメリカのはちゃめちゃ感は残しつつ、情感もたっぷりに表現しようとしてみました。
I think for him, when he tried to take this on, how could this be made different from? I mean, how do we keep the essence of what's wonderful at the original series, but what to do, in terms of interpreting through the lens of the anime project that we were trying to do, and for him, I think one area that he actually wanted to differentiate a little bit from the flagship franchise was to really get more into the emotional responses of each character and basically the emotional through line, the drama through line that he would have throughout the series. So they stand alone. Each episode stands alone, but at the same time they're connected through this adventure that Rick and Morty goes through, specifically for Morty with this new female character that he's created. And so that's an emotional through line that he actually created for this, and he wants to dig a little deeper into it, so that it's not just about the black humor or the situational drama, but more about the emotional responses and the drama you can create out of that. And I guess I could add that I think it came up a lot in other interviews as well. But another thing that's different about this is that the movements, because anime itself, as a format, it's a limited animation. Japanese anime is a limited animation, whereas in the West it's more of a full animation. So we have less information. So to show a moving picture. So in terms of cadence and then rhythm of the action and the movements and how that's being expressed on screen, all of that I think is his specialty. And he really I think brought that to the table. So that's something that actually stands out and quite unique that you might not see in the flagship franchise. So so I think those two are the important points to maybe look forward to.
Yeah. Now, I want to. Hopefully, you all can elaborate on this. I picked up on something you mentioned a new female character. Now, can you speak more about this new character?
新しい、オリジナルキャラクター、が女性が出てくるってことなんですけど、それについて彼女についてもうちょっと詳しく教えてもらえますか。
L っていう名前のキャラクターなんですけど、このシリーズ10本を通してのお話のキーになります。で、そうですね、今言えることは、モーティとの恋のお話その相手のヒロインとしてエルっていうのがいるんですけど、彼女は宇宙人でちょっと特殊な能力を持ってるんですよね。それがリックとモーティを翻弄して、いろいろお話が広がっていくっていうことですかね。
So this character actually is what you would call, what he could reveal for now is she's an alien, but she's also a romantic interest of Morty's. But at the same time, she's a warrior. So so there's that relationship that's going to carry throughout the episodes, and that'll inform the emotional core of the entire series itself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, of course, we're talking about the anime, so I'm kind of curious. What does the anime allow you all to get away with that you think the original series doesn't allow you to? Jason, I mean, you've been a part of, you're the big bad daddy at Adult Swim as far as I'm concerned, so I would love for you to take this.
I would say it's less about what we're getting away with. I would say it's just more like, look, we wanted this to not feel like a spin-off or like a piece of the Rick and Morty IP verse, We didn't want to marvelize it. We just wanted this to feel like another artist's take on the material. And the idea that Rick and Morty is a multiverse freed us up to be like, well, in a world where there's infinite Rick and Mortys, there's an anime Rick and Morty somewhere. And what kind of Ricks and Mortys are they? How do they differ? And I think that was the beauty of it, is that Sano brought his own, who he is as an artist and a person, bled through into the characters. So you'll see our Rick is a little bit nicer than flagship Rick. Our Morty's maybe a little smarter and a little braver than, and it's just because that's the kind of story Sano wanted to tell. So it really just, it wasn't like we got away with stuff that the main show couldn't do. It's just that we were able to spin it into a different vision of what that is, that hopefully is going to be interesting to people who do love the original or people who haven't seen either one.
Yeah. Now, my quick and final question, I have to ask this just as a longtime, viewer of the original series. And you mentioned the multiverse. Will we ever see these two cross over at any point?
I mean, I would say that's really up to the original show unit. For us, they were like the church. They were they blessed this project from the jump. They loved the anime shorts and they loved what Sano came up with. They looked over his overarching storylines and gave him some notes and then just let him do his thing. So if they're happy with this, I know. If fans are happy with it, I would say anything's possible, because with the original Rick and Morty crew, with Harmon and company, I never try to guess what they're going to do. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they call this and said, let's do this. It also wouldn't surprise me if they were like, nah, we just don't know.
Well, I mean, either way, it's a lot. We got a lot to look forward to. So thank you all so much for telling us a little bit more about Rick and Morty, the anime. Now be sure to check it out on Adult Swim, premiering August 15th. Now there's plenty more Comic-Con coverage right here on IGN, so stick around.